everyone, it's Erica back on the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel, and today we are going to paint some magnificent blooms. And I thought what we'll do is we are going to heat emboss this in both white and gold embossing powder. And I do need to apologize about the light. I'm trying to film during the day and trying natural light, and I'm not sure it's going to work out, but bear with me, and if this doesn't look good, I will never do it again. Okay, so there's a deal. Let's shake on that. Right, so we are going to heat emboss, and then we're gonna do some watercoloring today, I thought. So I've got 2 pieces of watercolor cardstock here, and we are going to treat them with the cottontail embossing tool, I want to say, from the Rabbit Hole Designs. I never remember the name of this because I just always kind of call it my embossing tool, but he has like a cute little cottontail something in the actual name of it. Now these 2 panels are a little bit bigger than an A2, so this one is actually 4 1/4 inches here, but it's a little bit longer because I want to tape this panel down onto a so this is an old die cutting plate. So we're going to tape that down with some masking tape, and then we're going to make sure that it kind of stays flattish. So first off, we're going to do this one panel, and then we're going to do the other one. And I was also thinking, actually that's the bad side, so we're going to do this side here. So we're not going to do this like right smack in the middle. So we're actually going to do kind of like a little bit of an offset, I think, today. At least on one, you know, gonna change things a little bit, right? Not do everything so samey. And that's coming from the One Trick Pony. So, you know what I mean, business. Okay, right, so we probably want these big ones. So we're gonna go this way maybe. And then also bearing in mind that some of that at the top there is going to get cut off. So I'm thinking that we're going to leave enough space here so we can actually stamp one of these sentiments. And now I'm wondering, maybe I'll do the sentiment heat embossed as well. And we are going to do "Have a magnificent day." That is a very, very good motto. So we're going to go right there, and then this is going to go kind of all the way down really, and then our trusted magnets, and then we're going to pick this up. Okay, right. And then of course we are going to be using some Wow embossing ink, and we are going to stamp this probably twice, I would say. I have recently re-inked my pad, so it should be really nice and juicy, but I do like to do 2 anyway, just to make sure that you pick up, well, I said the powder picks up all of these fine little details, and this one's got some really nice intricate details. So we're going to do the first one, like just pop, and then gently press down, not kind of like rub like crazy. We're just gonna go down and do the first layer like so, and then we're gonna go back in, more ink, and now this time we are gonna go a little bit more heavy-handed. And then we can do as well, if you don't have a stamping tool, so you take your top and cover the heel of your hand and rub like so. Okay, and then just around the edges, we're going to do a little bit more. There we go. Okay, and now we're going to take this, we're going to pop this aside just for a sec, and then I think we're going to go gold for this one, and then we'll do white for the other one. So we're going to just okay, now don't do crazy stuff like I'm doing right now. Make sure you put down something to pick up the powder. Okay, here we go. All right, so this is just normal sort of printer paper, nothing fancy. You definitely do not want to use your fancy stuff for this, because it's literally kind of like a powder collector. That's it, nothing else.
And then make sure that your entire image is covered, and then tap off the excess, and then make sure your heat tool is nice and hot before you start heating as well and melting, and then work over your entire panel until everything is melted and ready. And then you are going to want to set this aside to just kind of let it cool down a little bit. If you touch it before it's cool, you might leave fingerprints or smudge it even.
Okay, I've had to abandon the idea of using natural light because it just, I wasn't fast enough, so the light has kind of been like flowing all over the place. And so let's agree that we'll never do that again. Okay, tip top. But now we have our 2 panels watercolored here, so I'm going to tape these down, and I think I'm going to start with the white one. And the reason for this is because I think this is going to be the more kind of natural colors. And then I think with the gold, there's a little bit more leeway to kind of have some like extravagant color choices. Because it's, I don't know, it just kind of feels like gold gives you a little bit more, yeah, leeway, I think is the word I'm looking for, to kind of be a little bit crazy. Yes. So that's what we're going to do. If I can just get this tape off here. Okay, so, oops. This is, I know I'm saying this now and you just see me struggle with it. This is a brand called Tesa, and it's actual like painting or like painter's masking tape. Actually, we're going to tape over this one as well to make sure it doesn't get covered. But maybe make that straight. I've just found that it's really, not only is it super like good value for money, but it's also very it's user friendly. It peels off really well, and it holds things in place really well on top of that. Right, so we're going to use some Kuretake Gansai Tambi watercolors today, and this is the 36 pack, I think. Or is it 48? No. Yeah, it's the 36 pack. And we're going to have a little pot of clean water. La 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 la. There we go. And then we're going to take our big pot of paintbrushes here. But I think we're going to keep the dry ones for when we're going to do some details. So we are going to use some of these refillable paintbrushes to do kind of like the first wash, if you like. So on the inside of this, they have quite conveniently given you like a little chart that you just have to fill in. So we are going to go for I think this is going to be our end color, so we'll maybe start with number 34, and we're going to do a really light sort of wash first. So we're gonna pop this out. We're gonna take a little bit here, like so, add some more water, and then just kind of very lightly go here inside the edges of the heat embossing. All right, so with these, there is a little bit of kind of like artistic license where you choose, you know, do you think this is a petal? Do you think this is a leaf? It's entirely up to you. And I think also it can actually kind of, if you don't do it exactly the same every time, that could be a fun way of sort of changing things up as well and just, you know, stretching your supplies a little bit. So with this first one, it really is like, it doesn't look like much, but I do find like with watercolors, you know, you have to have so much patience, which is normally not my strong point whatsoever. However, with watercoloring, it really is worth working on that because your results will be absolutely fantastic if you just kind of give it time to dry, and then, you know, you build up your details and stuff. Now, a wet on wet look is really cool. I think we're going to do that for the gold one, and we're going to go a little bit wilder with our color choices.
But now we're going to go in with our second layer of color. So now we're going to start building up a little bit of detail. I'm still going to use the water-filled brush here to just make sure that I kind of get really soft details. I mean, this is sped up a little bit now, so you can see that it's actually, you know, there is a little bit of color, but this is still gonna dry much paler. So that's another thing with watercolors. Like when you add your color, you do have to remember that sometimes it's gonna dry a lot paler than it actually is looking when it's wet. So bear that in mind.
Another thing I think as well, like with watercoloring, is it's very easy to kind of overthink things, but generally it's a very sort of forgiving medium. So if you feel like you messed up, there's usually a way to fix it. So I wouldn't stress too much, but I know that that's really difficult. You know, it's so much easier said than done, especially when you spent a lot of time kind of trying to get it right, and then you feel like you messed up and you just want to go rah, and throw it in the bin and start again. But if you feel like you're getting frustrated with your coloring, just take a break, go do something else, and come back to it later. Because often as well, the colors will settle as they dry, so they're not going to be as bright. Okay, we are going to let this dry a little bit more, and what we're going to do is we're going to start with our leaves. So we're going to use number 53. It's this one here, because it's very nice and light. And then we're probably going to add some details with either 54 or, depending on which way we go, 56 or 61. But we're going to start doing the light colors first, and then we'll see how it goes. So very light. Oh, there's a dog hair in here as well. Joys of having pets. Okay.
So we are going to use the same principle here. A little bit of pigment, lots of water, a nice light first wash. Cover all of those leaves.
Okey-doke. And then I'm going to take this and dry it with the heat tool, and then I'll be back. Okay, we're going to go straight in with our second layer. We're just going to add a tiny bit more pigment here. And there we go. We're going to start adding that sort of depth of detail. So here on these leaves, we are going to leave a little bit at the top there, so it's light. And that is, you know, where the light is going to catch it if you think the light source is coming this way. So here we're going to go darker. Leave a little bit of that, and then here it's going to be darker, shaded like from the blooms. Same here. And then we're just going to very lightly kind of finish this off a little bit like so. I say finish off, I mean this is we're nowhere near close, but just add this, and then we're going to add a tiny bit more just up here. Oh, that was quite a lot more. Okay, so this is a perfect opportunity to show you what I mean with watercolors being forgiving. So squeeze out a little bit more water, and then we're going to have an almost clean paintbrush here. And then we're just going to dilute this and drag this out and make sure that we don't waste that. So there you go. You can barely tell. And I just made a huge boo-boo there, and it's fine. Don't worry. Okay, so we're going to go in here again and add a little bit more. And then I am going to set this aside, and we are going to start working on our gold one. Just to kind of give this time to sort of organically dry instead of being dried with the heat tool. So this is now going to, actually, we're going to redo our boo-boo here, but we're going to actually dilute the pigment here. So we're going to add in a little bit more just to kind of see, you know, so that they are about on the same level of colors here. Okay, so for this one, we're going to go completely different style. What we're going to do is we're going to do some wet on wet. So we're going to take some clean water. I have changed it so it's nice and clean. And we are going to wet our whole panel here. And then we're going to very quickly, without overthinking things, we are going to pick some fantastic colors. So we're going to go 36. And we're going to just Add some here, add some there. We're going to go outside of the lines. And then we are going to go maybe some purple. We're going to go 139. And just kind of make it very sort of loose, very abstract kind of look. And we need something that is a little bit kind of unexpected. So maybe 57, but we're going to swap paintbrushes. So 57, there we go. Okay. Ooh, okay. I like that one. And then what are we going to do? We are going to take yet another paintbrush first of all. And we are going to, should we do some blue maybe? Let's do some blue. We're going to go 67. Okay. Oh, I love this blue. It's so good.
And then it's just a case of kind of adding as much color as you want, or as little color as you want. Do you want a pale one? Do you want a really sort of vivid one? I decided to go kind of more dark here, and I added some more pigment to my reddish areas, and then I just tried to sort of blend them all a little bit together so that it kind of flows a little bit better. And I just realized that's a pretty good watercolor pun, because it's water and it flows. Get it? Yeah, but so this is done. We are going to leave that to dry and move on to this one again.
I think I might swap to one of these little brushes. So we're going to add a little bit more detail onto the petals first, and then we're going to finish off the leaves as well. So it's reasonably dry. Yeah, it's reasonably dry. So now we're just going to add in a little sort of few details here and there, and just to kind of create that depth and detail that we want to kind of really bring the flower to life. And this stage here, it's not like just the final stage. You can do this as many times as you want until you have the look that you want.
It's kind of perfect because if you are nervous, you can just build up really, really slow and just do many, many layers.
Okay, so we're gonna go over to our, this is number 37. And so this one is a much kind of more purpley red, but it's gonna help give us that like real deep sort of intense depth of the flower. So this is a bit scary, not gonna lie, but just believe in the process and stick with it, because it's gonna look weird in the beginning, and you're gonna think, oh, but it will look lovely in the end. I am sure. I have faith. Let's do this.
Right, so I have zoomed in a little bit so you can kind of see the process a little bit more, but it really is just adding that darker color, kind of where you think your sort of nooks and crannies will be, as Kathy Rakusin always says. So where you want the depth and the darkness, so the darkest point, like where it will be shadows and the most contrast, that's where you want to add your darkest color, and then you can just kind of blend it out a little bit into your lighter colors, or leave it quite dark and then just kind of see how it dries. And if you feel like, oh, that is too much, you can always just go in with a wet paintbrush and just kind of soften that edge a little bit. There are so many ways of doing this process and, adding these details so that it will really, really make your image pop. But it's definitely worth trying out which style works for you, which look you like the most, and then also have fun while you're practicing, because even if something doesn't work out the way you think or hope it's going to, you will always learn something in the process, and then it will make it the next time much easier. So remember, we're not going to beat ourselves up. We are going to take every crafting session as a learning opportunity. Either we learn something we like, something that doesn't work, something we love, or something that is just never ever to be tried again. And some people think crafting is boring. What do they know? Honestly. Right, so back to this coloring here. So I am kind of finishing off a few details here and there, just to kind of like really bring in that depth and the detail. Don't be afraid of adding more color even if you think you're finished, because sometimes it really can just make that image like really pop. And this is like the detail that is going to make the whole thing really, really shine. Last but not least, we're going to do the middle.
Might do a little bit of 33 for the middle. Now it looks really, really, really orange here, but when you actually get it wet and on paper, it's more kind of a goldy
yellow. And then what we're going to do is we're going to put this in the middle, then we're going to kind of dab it or like run it out into the pinkish a little bit to kind of get that nice blend. And then we're going to leave that to dry, and then we're going to have a look at this one again, and it's been left to dry and it looks really, really, really cool. So I think we are going to add some gold splatter to this. Yes, we are. And that is going to like make it go wowza. Yes. So I'm going to go and do that off camera, and then we will have a look at that when it's done.
Okay, here are our 2 finished colorings. I really wanted to kind of add more yellow to that bit, but I think I'm going to leave it and just finish them off now. And if it still bugs me once it's on a card, I can always just add a little bit more then. But yeah, so now we're just going to peel this tape off, and then we're going to trim these down a little bit. And I think this one is probably going to be just trimmed enough so that you can actually go directly onto a card base. This one, because it's not the full 4 1/4 inches, it's gonna get trimmed down so that it's 5 1/4 inches tall, and then it's gonna go on a white card base.
So I am going to do all of that and put some finishing touches on the cards, and then I will be right back to show you the final results.
So cards are done. I have also added some bling-a-ling because, you know, it's still me. I can't help myself. And I've used the brilliant Bling Buddy to add some. So these are magic crystals. Love them. They're so versatile and so good. They work on everything. And I've added quite a few, as you can see, on this one. And then on this one, I did use some of the limited edition Fern Dew Drops. At the time of filming, those were still in stock, but if you want them, make sure you grab them, because as soon as they're out of stock, then they will not be restocked again because they were a limited edition. So that is my 2 cents for the day. So hopefully you will like these cards, and you know, same stamp set, very, very different coloring styles, but just a couple of ways of adding color without using alcohol markers. So don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the Crafty Meraki YouTube channel, give this video a thumbs up, and maybe leave me a little comment as well if there's anything that you have any more questions about, or any input or feedback or whatever. Anything is welcome, except for bad trolls. Let's stay away from the trolls. But that is it from me for today. Thank you again for watching and hanging out with me. I know this one was a long one, so big cookie for you if you made it all the way to the end. And I will see you again very soon.